Let's take a look at the game recaps from these last couple weeks. I'll briefly go over the ones from 2 weeks ago, and then we'll take a look at this past week. So we know that a couple weeks ago they played the Sunday against the Islanders, winning 3-0. Then they played against the Kings, winning 6-2, the Sharks winning 4-1, and then more recently they played the Ducks, winning 5-1. So aside from the game against the Isles, the whole Western road trip was just unbelievable. I mean, these whole last 2 weeks have just been unbelievable for the Leafs, for Leafs fans, for Leafs Nation, anyone involved with the Leafs. It has been unbelievable. And I had said going into the road trip, if you look at one of the last couple episodes, my last couple episodes on my podcast, the way I said that going into the road trip, the way that it was going to go depended very heavily on how they started that first game, and that first game was going to dictate how the rest of the road trip was going to go. And that 6-2 win against the Kings definitely started it off really well. They just kept scoring the whole trip from LA to Anaheim, and they did not stop scoring 6 goals, 4 goals, 5 goals. It was insane, and it was very refreshing to see them scoring that much, considering how the last few weeks had gone before that. There were no games where they came close to giving up the lead either. They played a dominant 60 minutes each game. There might have been a few like brain farts or lapses in judgment here and there, but they always rebounded, and they never fell for more than, like, they never fell for a whole period where they just completely shut off. It was a dominant 60 minutes each and every game. We also saw Wall get his first shutout against the Islanders, which was before the road trip, but he got his first shutout. He's been great for us as well. I know it's a small sample size, but all things considered, being called up and everything like that, he's done great for us. And just overall, their structure as a team has been a lot more stable, and it's been a lot more secure the last couple weeks. Those holes and those cracks that I've been talking about since the beginning of the season, they don't really exist anymore. Or if they do exist, they happen a lot less frequently, and they're able to play the recovery game a lot better than they have been in the past, especially on defense. They have stepped up and improved big time. They do look a lot more solid and comfortable, especially with their breakouts and giveaways. This was one of the biggest concerns just 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, or since the beginning of the season pretty much. The inconsistent performance of the defense was a huge topic of conversation. The poor breakouts and the large amount of giveaways. It was one of my main takeaways in my podcast episode just a couple weeks ago, the amount of giveaways that the defense were giving up in their own defensive zone. It was mind-blowing. I was at a loss for words when I was talking about that. And just the last time we recapped games, I brought it up too, and just the lack of giveaways now and the huge improvement and stability that they've been able to formulate and add into their structure for defense. I mean, I had literally said that our defense they have the skill, they have the ability, it's there, we know because we've seen it, it's just not consistent. And I had said that the main thing that they need to change in order to improve the giveaways and improve the breakouts, the one thing they had to do was just become more consistent, learn how to do what they do, learn how to use their ability and their skill on a daily basis. Each game in and game out, become more consistent. And they learned how to become more consistent because they have been consistent over these last couple weeks. And you can tell because of the goals against. Just from that week against from the Isles to the Ducks, their goals against was only 4. So you can see that stability formulate, and just really how they've improved. They've done exactly what I said they needed to do. They became more consistent. So then moving to the game, December 1st against Colorado, winning 8-3. What a game! There's no other words to describe it. It was just wow. It was a complete game. It was a solid game. And I really don't care at all if Colorado didn't have their number one goalie. I literally don't care, because maybe a couple goals, like the Engvall one, which was pretty shit, was the fault of the goalie. But even if they had their number one in there, we would have taken that game. Just the way that we were playing. I don't care who was in their net. Just the way that we were playing, we would have still won that game if they had their number one in there. I mean, you look at when we have Wall in net, and we still come out with wins. So it's possible to have your backup in your net and come out with a win because your team in front plays strong. Colorado didn't have a strong team in front, and we beat them. End of story. Matthews also got his hat trick in this game with 2 highlight reel goals and 1 tap in. He had an amazing game. The whole team had an amazing game. So I was there. No real points of improvement necessary, I don't think. So in the game, Saturday, December 4th against the Wild, we did lose. So it put our, I believe it was a 5-game win streak to a close. But we lost in shootouts. So going into the game, it was 2 top teams that were going head to head. They're the top of their division. We're pretty much or close to the top of ours. I know Florida's came up just above us after Saturday, but Hall did not have like a few points. So Hall did not have a very good game. Not that it was his fault, but there was the one goal that went off his skate and into our net. There was another one that he was on the ice for that was partly his fault. He just didn't have a great game defensively, offensively, not the best game for him. Campbell had a great game, of course. The goals that went in, I wouldn't really say he had a chance on saving, especially like 2 out of the 3. Like the one that tipped off of Hall, I don't really think he had a chance on that one. And I believe there was another tip in, can't remember exactly, but there were at least 2 out of the 3 goals that he didn't really have a chance at saving. And then in the shootout, that first goal, I'm sure he might have wanted back, just in terms of him being more patient and not committing as much as he did before that last deke. But he had a great game regardless. He kept us in there, and he let us make that climb back. And he let us climb back, score those 3 goals to tie the game, and claim a point. That was all on him. So then I was going to comment on exact lines, but it's kind of hard to pinpoint exact lines because I feel like everyone was pretty much all over the place. We saw Spezza playing on the 4th, and then he also played with Matthews for a bit as well. And speaking of Spezza, he had an unreal night. He got 2 goals. Same with Simmons and Ritchie. They did amazing in terms of keeping the puck down in the offensive zone, being physical, creating chances. We saw, I believe it was Simmons, he got into a fight there too. So, I mean, overall, the last couple weeks, Simmons and Ritchie have been stepping it up big time. But I noticed them a lot on the ice on Saturday's game, so that's great to see as well. Matthews played great. That's the usual. There's nothing surprising there, really. But just overall, it was a really hard-fought game for the Leafs, and their ability to play a shut-down second period to climb back. Obviously, I'm really happy they came back, but I'm really, really happy they didn't wait until the 3rd period this time to turn it up like they normally do. They normally wait until the 3rd period. That's when they start turning it up. That's when they start scoring, and then either they get it with like a minute left or it ends up being too late. So I am really happy that they were able to do that earlier in the game. That was a huge improvement that I noticed too, and it's actually really important because I don't think I really remember a clear time, at least more than once, where they were able to come back from a huge hole like 3-0 earlier than the 3rd period. So it's really important to note that because they've been known for waiting until too late to turn it up and come back. So that's huge for them that they were able to do that. And then the way that the game ended, I mean, I will forever hate how shootouts decide games, but it is what it is, and even though they lost, they should be happy that they fought back from 3-0 to claim a point. Who knows, down the road that point could mean everything. This 1 point that we claimed, it could mean everything. And then last thing I wanted to note was that the reffing was absolutely horrible. Has it ever been good? Not really, but This game specifically, it was really, really bad. There were so many missed calls. The one against Campbell, when the guy ran into him on his own with no one near him, and he hit Campbell in the head. I don't know how that wasn't called. Not, like, I literally don't know. And then also the 5-on-3 that was given to the Wild. Yes, it was given to the Wild. Those calls were so weak. I think there was one on Riley. He was called for holding. And they showed the replay, and both guys were holding each other's stick for the same amount of time. And they called Riley for it. So, like, it's things like that where, how can you, I don't know. But there was no game management that the refs love to do. They love to manage these games. There was none of that. So, and then the funny thing is, then the league expects people to not spaz out at the refs, or else they get fined. Yeah, it makes sense. Your refs got to be a bit more consistent in order for people not to want to spaz out at them, basically. So those were the recaps for the games over these last couple weeks. Come back in the next couple weeks for some more game recaps. Thanks for tuning in.